Hi everyone. You may remember, if you've watched my channel for a long time, that I made this werewolf puppy a few years back. And he's in pretty good condition. He's not bad. His face is still lovely. And his fur's not too bad. However, he's lost his claws. And he's losing a couple of others. Because I didn't have epoxy sculpt at the time. I am taking these off because I'm replacing them. I didn't have epoxy sculpt at the time, so what I did is I used an air drying clay and then secured it onto the doll with latex. Well, obviously on the claws, the latex has peeled off, as you can see. It's just through wear and tear and catching it. It stayed really well on the head though, so that's really good. So what I'm going to do is replace the claws with epoxy sculpt ones, which will stay in place a lot better. Because obviously catching the hands and feet, the latex has come off. So I'm just going to see where I can remove it to. I think most of it on the hands now is paint, apart from that bit. So I can't grumble. I mean, it's lasted a while. I've got a crack in the ear because I dropped it. This one's fine. Just needs touching up with paint. The hair's still fine. And I love the squishy body. I'm going to have to make another one, I think, because I really enjoyed making this. And it's so cute, because it's a baby one. So yeah, so I'm going to repair the claws. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use epoxy sculpt, which is what I should have used in the first place. But hey ho, obviously at the time I didn't have access to epoxy sculpt because it was expensive. It is expensive. And yeah, I just made do with what I'd got. So now I've got the proper stuff, I'm going to redo the doll. So first of all, I've got to mix up the epoxy sculpt. I should really have gloves on for this bit, so don't do what I do, put gloves on. I've just heard that when you're mixing it, it's not the best for your skin. I think it's just how sticky it is, and then can irritate your skin, I suppose. But I'll give that a good mix. The face itself has stayed on really well, and I'm amazed. Look, there's no movement. It's solid, that little face is. So that's quite good. So at least I'm going to repair the whole thing. Ignore the creaking, that's just my chair. Okay, so I've mixed up a small batch of epoxy sculpt, and I'm going to try and work as quickly as I can before it starts to dry off and set, because it does start to set pretty quick. So how big am I going to need? I'm going to take a small ball like this, and I'm going to roll it so it forms a claw. And then I'm going to stick that onto the doll. Obviously these are going to take some finessing and tweaking, and not breaking it would help. I'm just going to make that smaller because he is a puppy. Hold on. Okay, smaller amount of epoxy sculpt, and then I just rub on one end to form it into a point. So what I'm going to do is do the rough shape of them first, and then finish the sculpting off in a bit. Come on. There. No. You stick to my finger more than me. Come on, man. It's because my hands are still sticky. Okay, I need my clay tool now. Because I've got the end that's curled over a bit, I'm just going to lift that up a bit. Okay, so tiny is the key. If you find that your hands are sticking a lot to the epoxy sculpt, just wipe them over with a baby wipe. The moisture of the baby wipe will stop it sticking to your hands, so you can actually work on it. So I can smooth that down now. I do think I'll do a new version of this at some point. I just need a baby doll with a soft body. I'll have to keep an eye out at the charity shops, because I don't normally buy baby dolls with soft bodies. I normally go for brats and stuff, so I'll see if I can get one so I can make another one. I might see if I can make one a bit bigger. I'm either going to make one a bit bigger, or I'm going to make one that's even smaller. Okay, so that's the claws there. They don't have to be particularly sharp or anything. The thinner the point, the less strength they're going to have anyway. So start with the ball, put your finger on one end of it and rub, and it forms a point. And then stick it onto the doll. Ooh. This is where it's awkward because it's so small. Come on, there you go. Smooth that down, and the epoxy will stick to the doll a lot better and stay in place a lot better. Just going to make that look a bit more like a fingernail now. Okay, and then I'm just going to just tweak the edges a bit, make them stick down more. This is the hard bit because you're working on something so small. Especially when you nearly break it, that's the annoying part. Come on. Yeah, I'm going to stop fiddling with that now, I think. So that's one hand, and then obviously I've got to repair the claws and everything. So I'm going to do exactly the same for the toes and the other hand, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I have redone the claws on his hand. Oops. And I've redone the claws on his feet. He looks a lot better now he's got claws again. Now epoxy sculpt, it takes 24 hours to fully harden, so what I've got to do now is leave him for 24 hours. Not sure why I stitched that. I think it was just to hold the legs together. But yeah, I've got to leave that now for 24 hours, and then once I have left that for 24 hours, I've got to touch up the paint and everything. So I'm going to leave that to set, and then I'll come back and show you what to do next. And now I've got to touch up his paintwork. So first of all, I'm going to take some black paint and paint his claws. Excuse my palette, I can't be bothered to clean all the paint off yet. I've got to leave yesterday's paint to finish setting, and then I can remove it. Okay. Just going to paint his claws black, which is the colour I did them before. like so. Once I've touched up the claws, I will apply a little bit of varnish to try and make sure the paint stays in place. Make sure I paint underneath the nails too. Well, the claws, I should say. Like so. And then what I'll do is I've got to match up the paint on his hands to the rest of his body, and I used a mixture of yellow ochre and burnt umber when I did it last time. So my burnt umber's running out badly. I've got to get some more. Come on, you can do it. So I'm going to take some of the yellow ochre, tiny touch of the burnt umber, maybe a bit more. Like so, and I've just got to touch up where the paint came off when I removed what was left of the claws. And because this time I've done it with epoxy sculpt. Oh, today's an ambulance day. That's like 3 when I've recorded. Yeah, because I've done the nails with epoxy sculpt, they'll stay on a lot better and stay in place. And all I've got to do is touch up the varnish a little bit. So what I'm going to do is do the exact same for each. Basically it's a base of the burnt umber and yellow ochre, and then a little bit of white over the top to blend it all in with what was already on the hand. So I know that looks a bit different at the minute, but I will get it to match. Let's put some more black on. Like so. Okay. There you go, his hands aren't far off being done. And then I'll just do his toes. In fact, no, I'll do his ear. I had to replace the point on his ear on this one because I broke it. So what I'm going to do is touch his ear up. Now I did do his ear brown originally to match the face, so I'm going to have to do a layer of brown over the top. Like so. And then darken that a teeny weeny bit for the second coat, just to get that to match back up with what it was before. That's not far off actually. Oh, this one's wobbling a bit now. I'll have to replace this one at some point. I'm not doing it now though. Then I'm going to take a bit of, I've got no white on my palette. Hold on. What I'm going to do now is just make a slightly lighter version of this brown and yellow ochre. And use that to touch up the highlight on the fingers. Oh. And I've just got a bit underneath there to mix in. Like so. Let's fix that nail that I've managed to knock the paint off. There we go. Same for this side. I'm just going to get that highlight colour, touch up the highlighted areas on. I hate that when you get water on your brush and it drips down. Forgot to wipe the brush off. Oh well. Okay, so that's his hands repaired and his ear repaired. Now to do his feet. Again, just got to move the fur out of the way and paint the claws. There was more damage to the feet than to the hands, so it's not too bad on the feet. On the hands, there's more, as you can see, there's more area to patch up on his feet. There's more of the paint that peeled off. Because like I said, what I did before was use air drying clay and latex to make it stick to the doll, whereas now I've got proper epoxy sculpt, so I'm using the proper stuff now. Okay, let's use my jumper like I normally do. Right, let's get some brown on those feet. Let's touch up these areas like so. I'm just touching up where the paint's chipped. It's because at the time I didn't varnish this doll because of problems with the varnish I was having. So, never mind. There you go, no one's going to be able to see any bits that don't blend. So I'm just going to finish off touching up Wolf Pup and then I'll show you what it looks like. So yeah, he's all touched up. Oh, missed a bit. That's the only thing with these, is obviously if you don't look from every angle you will occasionally miss something. It's just a tiny bit of white on the end of that nail showing there. I have got to go over the edges there. This is the awkward bit because I don't want to paint on the fur. So yeah, I've touched up around the nails, matched it in with the skin tone that it had. I've done the feet with his little claws and painted his ear. So yeah, he's, oh, did I just dip you in paint? Sorry, love. So yeah, my werewolf puppy has been repaired. so he's ready to go back on the shelf once I've varnished him. All I've got to do now is put my Liquitex matte varnish on him and he'll be fine. So that's it, that's me repairing my werewolf puppy doll. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.